Hi friends! You may have noticed that I've been absent for over a month from YouTube, and Instagram is also full of crickets. Okay, this may seem like a really bad marketing scheme. Subscribe because I post erratically, and that's quirky, but it's simply a reflection of my life at the moment. For those of you who are new here, hi, I'm Isabel, and I'm a watercolor artist who likes to chat about all things life and art. Today we're going to be discussing the implications of hustle culture, specifically in relation to hobbies, and why it's okay to spend an evening curled up watching New Girl. Since I started posting art on the internet about 2.5 years ago, wow, it's been that long, that's crazy, I've tried to force myself to paint in every spare moment. I felt like I needed to have at least one new piece a week, but even that wasn't enough according to the self-labeled social media experts that I found online. I'm not really sure why I was so obsessed with growing an audience. I guess it's sort of a natural tendency to want a community that appreciates your work. But I've found that even with my relatively small following, and I'm honestly glad that there's not the pressure of thousands of people watching me. My paranoia would be off the charts. Anyway, I tried to force myself to post multiple times a week, and each of those posts had to be something new. Heaven forbid a piece occupy more than half a second of scrolling. Keeping up with this demand meant spending all my free time painting, and the hobby that used to be relaxing and freeing became stressful. I actually started painting while posting, so I didn't have any period of painting with watercolors seriously and not having the pressure for it to be postable and perfect. I don't think non-artists realize exactly how much time it takes to create a piece. I can spend upwards of an hour just planning it in my sketchbook, not to mention the days or even weeks that it takes for a piece to marinate in my brain until the idea pops out, almost fully formed, because that's just my process. Once I start painting, the process usually takes about 5 to 10 hours, depending on the level of detail and contrast. If you haven't used watercolor, it takes a long time to build up. You can't really go in dark and opaque like you can with a lot of other paints. With larger, more finished pieces, I can spend almost 20 hours on a piece. If I am to finish a large piece a week, that would be a part-time job. Not to mention the time it takes to accurately photograph watercolor paintings and write captions and edit videos, which I do enjoy, but it's just a lot of work. Reminder, most of my after-school time is spent doing calculus and university applications. Yay. By the time I get to relaxation, I often don't have the energy to work through a painting's kinks and tangles. All I want to do is snuggle my cats. I'm going to be honest, the return to in-person school is kicking my butt. Painting during Zoom calls was so nice. I don't want this to sound like I'm complaining, because I'm not. Art is something that relaxes me and makes me feel whole and helps me to manage my emotions. But it also takes a certain amount of energy to get started before it can refill my battery, and right now it just isn't feasible to be painting as much as I used to, and this makes me sad. I wish I could see the progress that I could make if I painted every day, but art can't help my mental health on its own, and I need to prioritize my well-being over everything else. A lot of people feel guilty when they aren't productive, and I strongly believe that it's because our society tends to look down on people who take time for themselves and don't hustle for the dollar every second of every day. And that's on the meritocracy, which, if you don't know, is essentially the idea that you can climb the social ladder through your talent, effort, and achievement instead of wealth or heredity. It's an extremely common mindset in the US, where I live. Pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is meritocracy in a nutshell. So people want to work as hard as possible to fulfill the American dream. It's like you're only worthy when you're being productive. And to that I raise you, efficiency! Isn't it more productive to work fewer hours while functioning at a higher level? Letting yourself rest will make your productive hours more efficient. Thus, taking a break is productive. Mind-blowing. But we don't even need to view it that way. Resting can be just that, if we let it. It doesn't need to factor into the equations of productivity. It can just be something that's beneficial because it's important and makes us feel better. I've just found that the productive way of thinking helps me to justify resting when I feel guilty. So if I'm trying to take a break and my brain is screaming at me to do something productive, I can just say, no, this is productive, because if I were not doing this and I were trying to do something more productive, it would take forever and would not be my best work. It's hard to distinguish whether art is part of the relaxation or productivity parts of my life, because I definitely enjoy it more than homework, but it also takes quite a bit of mental energy. I suppose the distinction is whether I'm making it with the goal to share or just doodling in a sketchbook that no one will see. Both types take energy because painting requires a lot of concentration, but there's less pressure when I'm just throwing paint around without a camera and I can just hide it and never look at it again. I do love sharing my art with you all. I don't know a ton of other artists in real life, so it's nice to connect with people who get how awesome art is. And the online art community is one of the best corners on the internet, but I may be biased. Unfortunately, I just don't have time to paint pieces to share and pieces to hide. So, a lot of times, art comes with the pressure of sharing it. But I'm working on removing that pressure by posting when I feel like it. It makes my schedule loving brain go crazy, but the rest of my brain is better off. For now, this is a hobby, and it's fun. I found that the times that I push myself to paint in all my spare time are the times when I get most burned out on art and really all creative endeavors. What's helped is to acknowledge that this is supposed to be fun and relaxing, and if it isn't, I need to take a break. Sometimes, pushing myself to paint even when I don't feel like it can be beneficial and restore some energy, but sometimes it just makes things worse. So, it's important for me to be in touch with my mental and physical state before I start painting. Of course, if I feel extremely inspired, I'll paint, but creativity doesn't just occur when you're inspired. You have to just start sometimes, even when you aren't feeling it. But if I've had a super long, exhausting day, then being creative will only make things worse. On days like that, it's more beneficial to curl up under blankets and find something mindless to watch or something interesting to read. It's so much better for my own mental health to take a break when I know I need it than to push myself to create. I'm going to talk a little bit about this painting because that's all I have to say on hustle culture and productivity culture and all of that. For now, I may have more to say later. So this painting started from a reference picture of my little sister. So shout out to her for being the most photogenic of all my siblings. But it didn't really look like her. So I kind of just kept going with it. And then I started thinking, this kind of looks like Rose Quartz from Steven Universe. And if you haven't watched Steven Universe, basically she's a very awesome goddess looking woman with giant lips and giant eyes and giant ringlet, like lilac hair. So it doesn't quite look like her. It wasn't meant to be fan art, but because it wasn't really looking like my sister and I wanted to make it look a little bit better, I sort of pushed it in the rose quartz direction, if that makes sense. I do want to do dedicated fan art of rose quartz at some point, but I have a hard time squeezing in fan art with the other art that I want to make because it doesn't feel as fulfilling as making paintings that I connect to more emotionally. Yeah, so I started with making this painting pretty much all pink because my sister just dyed her hair pink a couple months ago and I think it looks awesome. So I decided to just make the whole thing pink. And then I felt like there wasn't quite enough contrast because I was mainly just using one color of pink. I think it's Madder Lake by White Knights, but I'm not entirely positive on that, and I've lost the squash card that I made, so I can't honestly tell you what the pigment is. Yeah, so I added some blue, and I was a little dum-dum, and I picked a granulating blue to do a wash over the whole thing, because I love ultramarine, but it doesn't really work as a glaze that well. So things got a little messy, a little muddy, and I just kept going with it. And I'm really wishing I'd stopped sooner, but I didn't. So, this is where that painting ended up, and I'm not going to complain about it because it's in a sketchbook and it honestly was just meant to be fun. And I really wanted to try out this circular format again. I did it for the painting on the left. I don't have a video for that process, but I do have a little time lapse that I took on my Instagram if you want to check that out. And I really liked how the first one turned out, the green one. Um, and I felt like it'd be cool to just have like a cohesive sketchbook spread with the two of them. But I'm not as big of a fan as the one on the right, so whatever. But yeah, I do want to try incorporating that sort of circular frame effect into a larger painting, perhaps doing like that in the center and then some other shapes and such on the outside so that it is a rectangular painting in the end. I think September Wildflowers or Ruth Spear did something similar to that, and I love her paintings, so I might try that out. Alright, I think that's about all I have to say about this painting and hustle culture and all that, so I will see you. I don't know. I'll see you soon. Bye.